expected. At that point, there's a good chance people would just prefer the older teams with Navia. There's Zhongli, there's Chiori. Xiangling is, of course, a bit more popular than Farina. And also, this Navia team would let you play your Farina and your Xilonen with your Neuvillette as well. So it's important to factor that in too. We're not saying Xilonen isn't Navia's strongest Geo support, but as many people have seen in testing, she isn't a huge upgrade, and the opportunity cost of putting her with your Navia instead of with the other team is a good chance you'd rather play her with your topside team. Arlecchino double Geo, another pretty popular Arlecchino team, Zabiz. Mualani's most popular team. This might be surprising, double Geo, but funnily enough, I actually predicted that could have been the case yesterday on stream with the Jeff. But I'm actually guessing like a double Geo might actually be popular for casuals, for comfy play. Like, it sounds dumb, but like I can see like Xilonen and Zhongli being pretty popular for like an Unga Bunga team. It's basically like Candace with less damage, but you have a shield. Just a comfortable way of playing Mualani. You might have noticed, but she doesn't have the highest usage rate. That's probably because she's just not the easiest character to play for the average player. So that may or may not be surprising to you, I'm not sure. But that's, like I said, day one, many players might just prefer using a more straightforward, easy to play team rather than a more harder to play Mualani team, which is something they might do later if they're trying to do speed runs or whatever. If you wanted to see Zhongli's most popular teams, Navia, Ito, Arlecchino teams, Hu Tao, Double Hydro, Tainari, it's all very expected, and yeah, most people are playing him on the second half. Here's Farina's highest usage teams. As always, is very dominated by Neuvillette, and that goes back to what people have been noticing for the past year, which is that if your characters are popular with Neuvillette, they will have high usage. A lot of his most popular teammates are always up here. That's just how dominant he is. Here's Arlecchino's most common teams. You may or may not be surprised that there aren't that many shieldless teams. There is a very strong speedrunning Arlecchino team here at number 9 with Kazuha Xilonen. A lot of players are liking this team these days because it has better AoE than a vape team, and the setup is also a lot easier. But for the average player, they do like the shield, especially against the second half enemy. If you can't heal with Arlecchino, she'll die very quickly, and yeah, most people just won't bother with that. Now, as for Kanish, if you were curious, there's a bit over 20k people that own him in this out of 80k, which is slightly more than Mualani, and a lot more people are using him than Mualani, leading to, as we saw, he has a higher usage rate. And here are the teams. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that he's a stronger character than Mualani. What it probably means is that he's just easier to play, more comfortable to play. And as you can see here, he doesn't have a standout team in terms of full-on usage rate, but the two highest ones do have defensive utility with Dia, Toma. His main offensive team is the number 4 one here, but going for a comfortable team, the top 3, that would explain it. It's useful to not just look at the UR, but also the AR, because the AR is like the amount of teams submitted, whereas the UR factors in how rare a teammate is. For example, the team number 5 has higher AR than number 4, but that's because Emily is a less owned character than Zhongli. So actually more people are technically playing him with the Zhongli Bennett Xiangling than the Emily Bennett Xiangling, but it's that Emily is more rarer. Mualani, she doesn't really have a standout popular team. They're kind of all over the place. As I said, there are more comfortable teams. There are more higher ceiling teams. Like maybe T number 2 is a higher ceiling team. But what is interesting for her is like there are some teams that are more popular on the second half, and there's a team like number 2 which is more popular on the first half. I think it mostly just comes down to which teams have Zhongli. Zhongli is just that dominant on the second half regardless of the team. And yeah, here are the Hu Tao usage rates. Nothing really has changed that much. Her highest usage teams have always been with Zhongli, even if they aren't necessarily the most strongest ones. Although people are playing her with Xilonen here, number 3, I just wouldn't expect it to be at the top. Especially because, like I said before, players might rather save their Xilonen and their Farina with their other team, maybe their Neuvillette team. Here are the overall team usages, so the most popular teams overall. You can see the team with both the highest usage rate and the actual usage rate is by far the new Neuvillette team. As we said, she's a good damage buff for him, and also more than half of the players in this survey have C1, so they don't need the shielding anyway. But the Baiju team is still decently popular for players who might not have that C1. And then there's a standard Al Haytham team, standard Navia team with Zhongli on side 2, standard Hu Tao, Ito, another Navia team, Arlecchino with Zhongli. A lot of this is very standard. And in case you were interested, there is a cheeky Ayaka freeze mention here. A decent amount of people are playing that on the top half, which is cool because you can utilize freeze on the top half. It's a bit. Lastly, I've got the trends data here. You can see a lot of the Geo characters are trending upwards. Obviously, it's a Geo-friendly Abyss, as I said. Even Albedo is here, and yeah, Neuvillette getting even more popular. I did forget to mention, but these consecrated beasts have high resistances to the element as well. So the Pyro Vulture has higher Pyro res, and the Electro Scorpion has extra Electro res. So what does that leave you with? It leaves you with Neuvillette. But it also makes sense because Electro Pyro Overload teams, they also work well on the bottom half, breaking Geo shields here, here, and here. So yeah, they either want you to play Overload or Geo teams on the bottom half, which would explain Chevrolet getting a small uptick as well. Not huge, but a small one. And Shenhe and Ayaka because freeze is effective in the top half too. Lastly, the downward trend characters. I guess you could make a trend that a lot of this is Dendro teams, and Xilonen obviously isn't that synergistic with Dendro teams. But what might be important to notice is the Baiju decrease, and I think that's less to do with Dendro teams and more to do with Neuvillette teams. Of course, the thing with Baiju is he was kind of just pretty comfortable with Neuvillette. He wasn't necessarily doing that much, so as soon as a another healer comes in like Shilonen, who actually provides some very good buffs and debuffs, that would explain why he's quite easy to replace there, and that would explain a lot of players probably just doing a straight up switch. Whereas a character like Zhongli, even though Shilonen is also stronger than him, he still has that unique value of the shield and the shield break. So you could say Zhongli retained more value than Baizhu did with Shilonen for Nuvlet teams. And yeah, here are the overall ownership rates. So out of this 80k people, 68% of them pulled Shilonen, which to me actually sounds like quite a lot. Of course, it's not as high as like Kazuha or Farina, but maybe this will get higher as the weeks progress. Her ban is still on. And then Knight, another recent character, a pretty modest 26% ownership rate. Him and Mualani are kind of around the same, with Knight being easy to play, Mualani being harder to play. If I had to guess, honestly, I think a lot of players are kind of just saving for the Pyro Archon. And it's fair to expect Pyro Archon probably is going to be one of those characters where like 90% of people pull for them. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. Again, try not to take usage rates too seriously. For me personally, I don't take it seriously in terms of like the popularity. It doesn't correlate with strength. But in this video today, the way I showed you all the different teams and the different constellation ownerships and trying to find trends, that I do find quite useful, at least useful for what it is. So let me know if you'd like me to continue making these kind of videos. Maybe I'll make it again when the abyss resets again, rather than just focusing on the clickbait like this page here. Anyway, thanks for watching and bye for now. Hey guys, I've been testing and utilize this. It allows your team to be less reliant on Pyronado and always needing to burst with Xiangling, which can make her feel less clunky as well. That's something I've realized actually, is the higher skill teams like this or this, you could argue it can make Xiangling feel less bad. If you have enough investment, a lot of the time you can clear with just Guoba. Whereas I feel like a team with less DPS, maybe something like this, for example, you're more reliant on constantly bursting with Xiangling, which means it can make Xiangling feel even worse than normal. So yeah, I think the Animos just give so much flexibility, but yeah, it's not for everyone. I don't want to say skill issue, but I guess you can call it skill issue, whatever you want. Now, as for deciding between Kazuha or Sucrose, I think Sucrose is actually honestly stronger overall, mostly because of our